I don't know, but yes, this is recorded on the second day of classes. Well, if I were to be asked, it would be something quite hectic, but not really, for the reasons that I'm quite lucky that I am in a good school, in a good public school actually, but in a good school that does not pressure their students to do certain crazy things that can't be done distanced as we are because of this pandemic rock star over here. So yesterday started with a bang. My siblings were the unlucky ones. They had to undergo this flag ceremony, virtual flag ceremony. Yeah, and I had classes at 7:30, just for a orientation actually. No classes, no lessons really. I'm not even expecting classes or lessons until the third week of this month, which is very awesome since I could at least spend time on scrutinizing these modules and probably scrutinizing the tablet as well, which is about to come. The free gadgets tablets by the government will arrive tomorrow, but would only be distributed to the lower grades. I think if I recall correctly, eighth grade, and since I'm in 10th grade, I would still have to be a good senior and wait, basically. So I'm just maybe warming up for my I don't know, spontaneous video I might do for the modules. Last night I slept like, I don't know. I slept very late because I was browsing through the modules and scrutinizing the science module in particular. Well, I noticed so many things. Yeah, I think in my first video I said that these things were good quality ones. I could say they're good quality material, given that you're aware of how much time it took for these things to be made, and given that there are so many factors that uh, could lead to the uh, there are just so many factors that must be considered when thinking about how these modules were made. As I did scrutinize each and every module, they seem to be actually they are sorry, they are made just for this purpose. I first thought that these are photocopies of the books of the government, that books of the books of the Department of Education, since we ever since before the pandemic had our own set of books for each grade level, and these books were usually distributed to teachers or principals, uh, and distributed to students in certain schools, specialized schools, uh, if I may specify such. But these modules are totally new. Why? You see COVID everywhere. You see COVID in every problem. You see COVID in every module. But anyway, you see the year 2020 in each and every one of them. So that's basically what it is. It's new. It's supposed to be rushed, and I understand anything that might happen to it. But since as a student, I would just like to grab any learning opportunity I could get from each and every module with this, and that may include the criticism of each module and everything I might find, each flaw I could spot, each dubious sentence. Well, it's easiest to criticize the grammar and syntax of a sentence, but hey, no big deal really. Just looking for learning opportunities. But yeah, it's fun. It's fun. I've noticed many things though with the modules, with the format of how it's made. It's quite a systemic problem here. Also, I've noticed that the sentences are really something that I believe that other students, if not most, would have a hard time understanding, since there are. Well, I'll just maybe read one sentence to you. I'll go for the science, of course. Okay, for the first. Okay, this is the first sentence really that introduces you to the topic. Sorry, my throat needs a little bit of clearing. Anyway, so looking back. In your grade 9 science, you are familiarized with the different types of volcanoes and were also be. Wait, oh yeah, I think this is. Anyway. And we're. Wait. In your grade 9 science, you are familiarized with the different types of volcanoes and were also able to determine the factors that give its distinct conical shapes and how energy can be harnessed from different volcanic activities. If a simple student like me or any other student that well, would be quite lazy in reading or comprehending, and as we know, some people say that the Philippines is like the lowest ranking country in terms of reading comprehension. I don't believe that that would really have to matter. It's just statistics. But given that you hold to such belief, how could you expect that a student could understand this sentence? Look, in your grade 9 science, you were familiarized with the different types of volcanoes and were also able to determine the factors that give its distinct conical shapes and how energy can be harnessed from different volcanic activities. That's one whole sentence, that's one whole paragraph, basically, because the next sentence is indented. So the next sentence is like, in this module you will have a chance to figure out what causes the formation of different geologic features like volcanoes, mountain ranges, volcanic arcs, trenches, mid-ocean ridges, and rift valleys. I know it doesn't seem to make a difference in comparison to how I spontaneously speak, but reading this will be something I believe this will be something challenging to anyone who would read this, as I've actually watched a few. I watched the news last night, PTV News Tonight. Hello, thanks for being out there. Anyway, so they had this story about a grade 10 mom. So yeah, a mom my age, definitely. Grade 10 mom who was trying to decipher this piece of paper printed with a group of words that I believe no one could understand given the length of the sentences. I know, I mean, this is my weakness. I'm never able to write something that could be understood by others, but I'm expecting maybe that these are supposed to be teaching professionals. But anyway, it's just a small thing. I couldn't even write anything better than this, I could say. I'm used to really writing long sentences. Yeah, very long sentences. And this is fine, but I worked with this. Also with this part where I believe that there's this contradiction, disagreement within the subject and verb. Something I'm really used to, criticizing. Well, it was in your grade 9 science you were familiarized with the different types of volcanoes and were you were already told that you were familiarized. So instinctively, having math as one of my favorite subjects, I could say that the term were before the word familiarized could also apply to what went after and, since they're technically something like a quantity. It's like something, how do I explain this? Well, in math we have this distributive property where since everyone hates math, and well, everyone hates math until after they finish arithmetic, but algebra is just arithmetic with unknown quantities. Anyway, so we have this polynomial, which is between open and closed parentheses to show that they're a quantity, and that, of course, we know that letters and numbers couldn't make up a whole numerical value, since we know that letters can represent a number of things. Sometimes it could be defined in equations, sometimes it could not, but in this case generally letters don't hold certain quantities as numbers do. And since we have added these or subtracted these and have enclosed them into a parenthesis and then multiply them by a whatever, could be a letter, numerical value, or literal coefficient, the process we apply here is what is it? The distributive property. I find it something the same. I find it similar to this sentence where the quantity is really about learning what you've learned in science, which is familiarization with different types of volcanoes, as well as The ability, wait a minute. Oh, how could this agree? Well, the sentences are just too long, but this is my weakness too, anyway. Familiarization with the different types of volcanoes, and also the ability to determine, yeah, there, agrees now. Ability to determine the factors that give its distinct conical shapes. So, the word were here is a little bit too redundant for me. The word were before familiarized could be applied to both the concept that the student was in grade 9 was able to familiarize oneself as well as to determine the factors around it. So now I go and criticize this other part. Well, this shouldn't be a big thing, but I'm just quite I'm just looking for opportunities to learn from this, maybe, and just share what I think about this module. Anyway, so in the second part, this module says that you have learned how to familiarize, and also determine the factors that give its distinct conical shapes and how energy can be harnessed from different volcanic activities. And then afterwards, we have this futuristic, exciting, and hopeful sentence that tells that in this module, you will have a chance to figure out what causes the formation of different geologic features like volcanoes, mountain ranges, volcanic arcs, blah 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 blah. So, in the previous sentence slash paragraph, something that I usually do also, but never mind, we've talked about why it shouldn't be that long. In the previous sentence, you are told that you have already learned to determine the factors that give blah 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 blah. Now, in the second sentence slash paragraph, you are told that you are about to find out what causes the formation. Okay, what is the difference between determining the factors that give a distinct conical shape to determining what, or figuring out what causes the formation of different geologic features? Well, if a student will be a little bit more attentive to this material that he's reading, it'll be something quite confusing, since the term chance to figure out what causes the formation of different geological features, blah blah blah, will sound exactly the same to determining the factors that give its distinct conical shape. It sounds the same. Determining the factors that makes a volcano and figuring out what causes the formation of volcano. They sound the same. Well, this is some kind of ambiguity, but I believe I know I understand how different they are, because figuring it out would probably talk about the process of what causes it, and in grade 9, determining the factors would mean that we'll be talking about, well, I don't remember my science last year, sorry. I don't listen in class and stuff, but anyway, determining the factors would just necessarily mean the concept, the underlying, the elements present, in a certain situation where it will be a cause for such formations to arise, and then figuring out what causes it will be the process. And it's something hard to decipher if I would be in somebody else's shoes. If I'm not an avid reader as I am, maybe I would just misunderstand this. Well, it's always best to ask the teacher, but then, we have lots and lots of students who would really have a hard time asking teachers, especially here, the HIA system in the Philippines. You get very, very shy in asking questions. It's a cultural thing here to be shy. Yeah, so that it's a very Filipino thing. So I don't expect that any student might. Wait a minute. There we go. I don't expect that any student might be asking questions regarding this confusion that one may think will just bring shame to oneself, since it can look like a very stupid question. Because, come on, what do you know about it? You see? Anyway, but I'm afraid that if one would notice such a confusing group of confusing pair of sentences, actually, this is just a pair of sentences. If one would notice that and wonder why what you have learned in grade 9 would just be something similar to what you will learn in grade 10. I believe that one could just keep it to himself and tell themselves that they're just plain an academic, and that they just can't understand the thing, or that you know it's their fault, and put the blame on themselves. So, well, I'm doing a rant of this whole module. And yeah, so next I'm gonna go to the brief introduction. Well, I'll have to point out this thing here. It's quite weird that in a lesson you have a pre-test and a module lesson. This module contains two lessons. In a pre-test, you have a no. In the lesson, you have expectations, so you're outlining the goals, which I actually personally think it is quite weird the way the whole thing is written. So it says here expectations. You will describe and I would prefer that it be constructed like you are expected to, and so on and so forth. It's quite weird since sentences are long, and it seems that information is packed in sentences to the point that I believe no student could really comprehend fully and with quality. Sulong edukalidad, supposedly, but yeah. Well, anyway, pandemic time, really, no one should complain, really. But pandemic, quote and unquote, pandemic. Anyway, specifically, this module will help you to blah 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 blah. And then we have a pretest, and then a looking back review, essentially looking back as to what you must have known already, which in my case I really don't, because classes in school you just go there to pass, really, but not to learn. And I don't know if anyone really appreciate this content. Sorry, my pronunciation is, I don't know. I hate pronouncing things. I don't want. Never mind. So looking back, and then we have the brief introduction, which is all about introducing you to the lesson. And then you have activities. We have activity 1.1. We have activity 1.2 in this module, and we have activity 1.3. And then afterwards, you reach a conclusion, or at least a summary entitled "Remember." Remember that the Earth's lithosphere is like this: crust is the outer part of the Earth, oceanic crust, continental crust, blah 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 blah, so on and so forth. So you have you have this brief introduction, and then afterwards you do activities, and then you have a summary. Now, where is the body? Now, we've supposed to have covered the topic on such a topic as Earth, science, crust, something, something. I don't really know. I'm not good in this, but you're supposed to be covering it, and then all you give is a brief introduction and a summary. Now, where's the body? And I'm expecting at least some kind of source or some kind of link one could visit to at least research more on this topic. Since look at this second paragraph of the brief introduction. I'll read it. So it says that Earth's crust is generally divided into two: the older, thicker, and less dense continental crust, generally made of different granite rocks referred to as sial, silicate, and aluminum. And this whole paragraph is just like 3 sentences. No, anyway. Sial, silicate, and aluminum, open close parenthesis. And the younger, denser oceanic crust, generally made up of different kinds of basaltic rocks, referred to as sima, I don't know, silicate and magnesium. Never mind my pronunciation. The transition zone between these two types of crust is sometimes called Conrad discontinuity. The dynamic geology of Earth's crust is informed by plate tectonics. Now, you have a brief introduction like this, and I expect that if any lucky student like me, which I believe could be quite numerous nowadays, if anyone will be lucky enough to be in a school that gives you a lot of time to just really pour over these material, that I believe is still really good, really. I'm not really too critical about this. They say it's pandemic. The Earth's crust, Where am I? So, if I were to read this and be genuinely curious, and if I were to really appreciate and learn, really, because yeah, you know, as a student, yeah, I've said it for the nth time. So anyway, if I were to read something like this, I would like to have a follow up on what Saima is. What is the Conrad discontinuity? How come? Why did it become Conrad discontinuity? And what is this last sentence? The dynamic geology of Earth's crust is informed by plate tectonics. Well, even I really couldn't understand anything from this last sentence. The dynamic geology of Earth's crust is informed by plate tectonics. Probably the word informed could mean something else, but if I were just any one simple guy like me, and as I am one, I couldn't even understand what Earth's crust could inform a plate tectonic. I can't understand the thing here, seriously. And that's all you have. After that, you have your activities that I really can't do at the moment, since you have to do all these crazy experiments where you really waste food in this time of pandemic. I thought they made this at the time of pandemic. Now, why are they asking the students to put cooked and uncooked rice in water? This is something. It's a waste of food. I won't be doing this. And observing the materials. I mean, everybody is hungry nowadays, so why create an experiment where you're expected to waste food? A little bit of food, but that's still a lot. Anyway, enough criticisms over the activities. They're just activities. I don't know if I have to do them. So you have three. So you have a brief introduction, three crazy activities that I can't do at the moment since I'm in my room, and a kind of summary. That's all you have. Now, what about this Conrad discontinuity thing that I don't even know? What about the dynamic geology of the Earth's crust is informed by plate tectonic? Oh, wait a minute. Even the syntax doesn't sound good. Actually, the syntax in every sentence here doesn't sound good to me. Seriously. The dynamic geology of Earth's crust is informed by plate tectonics. Okay, actually, after reading it so many times, I could quite understand what this would really mean. So it just talks about the dynamic geology of Earth's crust. Dynamic geology. What's that? Oh, I must sound very stupid to others that might be watching, if anybody at all. The dynamic geology of Earth's crust is informed by plate tectonics. So I would rather use a simpler term, maybe. The dynamic geology of Earth's crust is caused by plate tectonics, maybe. Something like that. The word informed, is some kind of transparency correspondence term everybody knows. Every student must know this. The teacher didn't inform me about the assignment. I wasn't informed that there was going to be a quiz later. I wasn't informed that you were my group mate, so on, so forth. Well, that's how most students must understand the definition of informed. Yeah. And I'm not so sure if they will be brave enough to ask a question as to what informed really means, because I've really had these personal experiences where students would ask teachers, and teachers would just tell, no, I don't want to, I'm just gonna stop there. So yeah, my point is, students are quite afraid to ask, and the distance between the student and the teacher doesn't make it help. Oh my gosh, sorry, my English is also bad, so what rights do I have? But anyway, I'm just looking for opportunities to learn. So yeah, students couldn't ask teachers questions even if they're already there face to face. What more? My syntax is destroyed now. My English, never mind. So what more if students are separated physically from the teacher? Students are very shy in this case. And well, in my 15 years, I started school when I was 2. I don't remember, but let's say 14 years in school. Every student would agree with me. We are all shy to ask. Okay, we're all shy to ask teachers. Okay, Now, it seems that Einstein wrote this summary. Let me read this. Remember, about 250 million years ago, the world's 7 major continents were all grouped. Ooh, wait a minute. There is even. Oh, there is a grammatical error here where we're all grouped. Ah, were. Come on. Were is past tense. I believe that group, the word group, which should be also, well, alright, I'm not an English teacher. I'm an English student, but this doesn't sound right according to what I have learned. If I did learn things right, never mind. But this should have been the world's 7 major continents were all grouped. We're all grouped, not we're all grouped in a. I don't know. Anyway, about 250 million years ago, the world's 7 major continents were all grouped in a supercontinent called Pangaea. Very nice. Pangaea was next bullet. Pangaea was first divided into 2 major plates after 200 million years. Laurasia and Gondwanaland. Okay, Laurasia sounds something, yeah. Gondwanaland, if I recall correctly, is kind of named after this kind of scientist. I don't know. This I forgot the name, but I know the story well. That this scientist was laughed at, geology scientist was laughed at for his idea that continents moved, and until he proved that continents once were like together by proving that certain fossils and rocks were found in different places. So it's very cool, a story. But yeah, Gondwanaland. But if I was somebody who had no prior knowledge or had no supplementary reading like me, having this vast private library, may I say, but vast collection of books in my house, I would wonder what Laurasia is and Gondwanaland, especially that these words in my module are highlight bold. The font is they're highlighted, and instinctively as a student, highlighted things are something that you should pay special attention to. In this case, pay special attention to memorize, and not to learn, not to really ask what this is all about. Anyway, I'm expecting that nobody would be asking these questions since they must have gone through years and years of knowing that school is all about knowing what you should know to answer the exams and perfect it. Something I can't do. Sorry. But I hope that somebody would appreciate this, especially that it's pandemic time. You have all the time in the world to scrutinize everything that goes before your eyes. Something that I believe that all humans have the innate ability to do so. Only that time could, and that only that they could not. Never mind. Something I believe that everyone can do, but something that everyone does not tap on to because of just how the system works. But since we have all the time, since not all students have all the time, I know my siblings are really having a hard time with their schools because they're not good. It's some schools will just really love to pressure their students. They can't trust or give students this this trust that they would study and just naturally as human beings be curious with what they see in front of them. Well, of course, we know that there are many other factors that may affect one's thinking. Such factors could make one really shun this natural instinct to learn and scrutinize everything. No dopamine. Yeah. And I hope that others could still appreciate such an opportunity to scrutinize everything that is no dopamine. Things like studying, things that isn't ML and video games. I don't play video games, by the way. I was like banned or something with my parents. I don't know, but I don't, and I don't really find much enjoyment. Anyway, so if I had seen this and had no idea about the Gondwanaland something, I would really be curious. What is this? What is that? And then you have so many things here. I really don't know, but Laurasia and Gondwanaland, I'm not gonna be shy about this. I'm gonna say I have no idea as to what Gondwana land is. I'm just gonna say it out in the open. I must have studied it before. Well, for sure, I must have, memorized this and must have did my best to really study and scrutinize this and do it for the sake of answering my exams, if not perfect. That hopefully some things are really something impossible to do. But now that I have the chance, what is Laurasia? What is Gondwanaland? There are so many questions that could be raised in here, and yet this module doesn't explain what these things are. You just say that this is that, and now shove it into your brain and prepare for the next quiz. Yeah, very nice. And then you'll forget it afterwards. As I've really proved that I have forgotten many things that I must have supposedly covered in my 3 years in high school, 6 years in grade school, and a number of years I forgot in preschool. Yeah. So this is 40 minutes of talk from an anonymous student, just having fun really with modules. I'm sorry, maybe I might be too critical about these things. Well, I'm really sorry. Maybe somebody might think that I'm just very picky and very mayabang maybe about my English and so on and so forth. But seriously, I can't speak in Tagalog if I can't. No, when I speak in Tagalog, cause it's always Taglish. I don't believe that anybody could. Anyway, Tagalog. It's fun to speak in Tagalog if you do not combine it with English, or at least a little bit of Spanish, as we sometimes integrate Spanish in Filipino slash Tagalog since I'm a Tagalog. Yeah, but I would rather speak in English or speak in Tagalog fluently in a consistent manner than in Tagalog, since we all speak in Tagalog, and no, not Tagalog, Taglish, and it's our habit to speak in Taglish. And anyway, the medium of instruction for this subject is English, so maybe yeah, it's more appropriate, and I want to discipline myself to consistently speak. So yeah, sorry, but I hope somebody could get something out of this. Really, I'm just trying to learn what I can learn. Yeah, I have 7 seconds, 6 seconds before I talk for 40 minutes. I don't know if anyone could even watch this. And I don't even know if I'm too close to the mic. This isn't even a mic. 5 seconds. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you. Anyway.